February 15th, 2010, a dry riverbed north of Patrol Base Wahid, Nadi Ali District, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. The sound comes first, a hard crack, then the long tearing roar of a rocket motor climbing through the morning sky. Inside a sealed crew compartment, Staff Sergeant Mark Eastley of 30 Armoured Engineer Squadron feels the entire hull rock beneath his boots. 230 metres of explosive hose unspools above the wadi, trailing the rocket like a whip of fire. 1 second later, the hose hits the ground. Another second, and the whole valley seems to lift. Later, he will try to describe it. He will say it takes your breath away, that you feel the vehicle rock and stand in awe of what has just happened, that you see the flash, hear the bang, and then feel the shock wave. The machine he is sitting inside does not look like a weapon. It has no turret, no tank gun. In place of a gun, a massive hydraulic arm rises above the hull like an excavator welded onto a main battle tank, 62.5 tons, 3 crew, a digger bolted where the cannon should be. Observers across the Helmand Valley call it monstrous, agricultural, absurd, wrong-shaped, wrong-purposed. They are watching the most specialised sapper tank Britain has ever built. Over the next 16 years, it will tear through Taliban improvised explosive device belts, open roads that every other vehicle in the column feared to touch, train generations of armoured engineers at Betis in Canada, and stand watch on NATO's eastern flank in Estonia. 33 built, none exported, every single one of them still in service. Its designation is the Trojan Armoured Vehicle Royal Engineers, and it is the last word in a British engineering lineage stretching back 80 years to the beaches of Normandy. To understand why the Trojan exists, you need to understand what the Royal Engineers faced at the end of the 20th century. The British Army had been breaching obstacles with turretless tanks since 1943. The Churchill Armoured Vehicle Royal Engineers was born from the disaster of the Dieppe raid, when infantry sappers died in the open trying to clear beach obstacles by hand. It carried a 29mm spigot mortar firing a 40-pound demolition round nicknamed the Flying Dustbin. On June 6, 1944, Churchill engineer tanks cracked the Atlantic Wall on Gold Beach. After the war came the Centurion Armoured Vehicle Royal Engineers, mounting a 165mm demolition gun that could flatten a concrete bunker with a single round. Their crews nicknamed themselves the Antiques Roadshow during the 1991 Gulf War because the tanks they were fighting in were already 40 years old. Then came the Chieftain Armoured Vehicle Royal Engineers, first-hand built in Woolwich, West Germany, by Captain D. Clegg and a team of Royal Engineer mechanics, then mass-produced by Vickers from 1994. Chieftain engineer tanks fought in the Gulf, in Bosnia, and in Kosovo. By the late 1990s, they were finished. The Chieftain chassis could no longer keep pace with the new Challenger 2. Spare parts were running out, and Britain still needed a vehicle that could fight forward with its main battle tanks, not limp along behind them. The answer arrived on paper in March 2001. The Ministry of Defence signed a contract worth £250 million with Vickers Defence Systems of Newcastle upon Tyne, 33 Trojan engineer tanks, 33 Titan bridge layers, all of them built on the Challenger 2 hull. The programme was called the Engineer Tank System. The first prototype reached the Royal Engineers Trials and Development Unit at Bovington in March 2004. The vehicles were unveiled to the public in November 2006. In 2007, they entered service with the British Army. The machine itself is a study in controlled violence. 62.5 tons combat loaded, the same Perkins Theosoph 12 diesel that drives the Challenger 2, 1200 horsepower from 26 litres, pushing the tank to 59 km per hour on road, range of 450 km, Chobham Dorchester composite armour, the same classified protection as the main battle tank, crew of 3, commander, operator, driver. There is no main gun, there is a 7.62mm chain gun in a remote-controlled mount, operated from inside the hull. And above the fighting compartment, bolted where a turret should sit, is the real weapon, a hydraulic excavator arm, 6.5-ton lift capacity, a 1 cubic metre bucket. It can dig trenches, place fascines, tear down walls, and haul wreckage out of a choke point while the crew stay under armour. On the front, a Pearson Engineering full-width mine plough, 3,600 kilograms of hardened steel. It clears a lane 4.2 metres wide through buried mines to a depth of 300 millimetres at speeds up to 15 km per hour. The rear carries fascines for crossing 8-metre gaps, and coupled behind the hull, a trailer carrying the system that will define the Trojan in combat, the Python. Now, before we get into how this engineering tank proved itself in the dust of Helmand, if you are enjoying this deep dive into British military engineering, hit the subscribe button. It takes a second, costs nothing, and helps this channel keep producing detailed weapon histories like this one. The Python minefield breaching system is not a mine detector. It is a sledgehammer, built by BAE Systems and filled at the Royal Ordnance Factory at Glasgow in South Wales. It consists of a single solid fuel rocket, a 230-metre explosive hose, and a Velcro retarding strip. The hose contains approximately 1.5 tons of aluminized plastic explosive, upgraded in 2016 to an insensitive munition compound called Roanex 4400M. When the rocket fires, it drags the hose out of its container and across a minefield in seconds. When the hose lands, a safety and arming unit detonates it along its entire length. The blast wave sets off or destroys most conventionally fused mines within a 7-metre wide corridor stretching up to 230 metres long. Effectiveness is above 90% against standard anti-personnel and anti-tank mines. After the Python fires, the Trojan itself drives forward and ploughs whatever remains. That is what happened in the Wadi north of Patrol Base Wahid on February 15, 2010. The lead unit was 28 Engineer Regiment, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Matt Baisley, supported by 30 Armoured Engineer Squadron and elements of 26 Engineer Regiment. Force protection came from 24 Viking armoured vehicles of the 1st Royal Tank Regiment. Operation Moshtarak, the largest coalition offensive of the war, had begun 2 days earlier with helicopter and ground assaults into Marja and Nadi Ali. The target, according to coalition planners, was what they called the Taliban seat of governance at Shawal. The route to Shawal was sown with improvised explosive devices, dozens of them, buried under compacted dirt tracks, hidden in culverts, wired to pressure plates. Sappers with handheld Valon detectors could clear the ground, but it took hours, and every minute in the open was a minute exposed to ambush. Python changed the calculation. Lieutenant Jim Viney, a 24-year-old Trojan troop commander with 26 Engineer Regiment, would later explain the philosophy to reporters. He called it a tool to save military and civilian lives. He said it was not an aggressive weapon. He said it made the route safe. Lance Corporal Simon Whitemore, leading a bomber sweep team from the 1st Royal Tank Regiment, put it more bluntly. He said the system would save his men getting out and combing the ground for improvised explosive devices all the time. Less risk, less exposure. On the same operation, a second Trojan made the first combat plough breach in Afghanistan. The driver was Sapper Gwynfor Hughes, 24 years old, from Prestatyn in North Wales. His tank cleared a route northwest of Shawal, through ground that engineers had assessed as saturated with improvised explosive devices. The mine plough tore the buried devices out of the earth. The ones that detonated exploded against 3,600 kilograms of reinforced steel. The Trojan kept driving. By the end of Operation Moshtarak, British engineer tanks had opened multiple routes through improvised explosive device belts that would have cost infantry lives to clear by hand. No Trojan was lost. No crewman was killed. That became the pattern. Across the rest of the Afghan campaign, Trojan crews from 22, 26 and 28 Engineer Regiments rotated through Helmand, breaching, ploughing, digging, demolishing. None of it made headlines. None of it produced the images of a Challenger 2 firing its main gun. But every route opened by a Trojan was a route the infantry did not have to clear on foot. Every buried charge pulled from the earth by a mine plough was a charge that did not take a British or Afghan life later that week. After the drawdown from Afghanistan, the Trojan returned to its second career, training. At the British Army Training Unit Suffield in Alberta, Canada, Trojans operate year-round as part of full-scale armoured battle group exercises. In Estonia, a detachment of 26 Engineer Regiment forms part of the NATO Enhanced Forward Presence Battle Group at Tapa, reinforcing the alliance's eastern flank. During exercise Tallinn Dawn in March 2022, Trojans led combined arms breaches across the Baltic training ranges, with British, Estonian and French forces watching the Python fire for the first time in European conditions. On paper, the Trojan has rivals. The American M1150 assault breacher vehicle, built on the Abrams hull, is heavier at 72 tons. It carries 2 internal line charge launchers with a combined 3,200 kilograms of explosive. 239 have been built, at a unit cost of around $3.7 million United States dollars. Its crews made their combat debut in the same week as Trojan, at Norzad and Marja. The German and Swiss Kodiak Armoured Engineer Vehicle 3, built on the Leopard 2 hull by Rheinmetall, offers a clever articulated arm with quick change tools. Around 86 have been produced for Switzerland, the Netherlands, Sweden, Singapore and Germany. The Israeli Puma Combat Engineer Vehicle, built on the Centurion-derived Schott hull, uniquely doubles as a troop carrier, with space for 8 engineers inside. The Russian IMR-3M, built on the T-90, carries the inheritance of Chernobyl, where its predecessor pushed radioactive graphite off a burning reactor roof in 1986. Each of these vehicles has advantages on paper. The M1150 fires its line charges faster, the Kodiak carries more tools, the Puma carries more men, but no other vehicle in its class pairs Challenger 2 grade armour with a Python trailer, capable of opening a 7-metre corridor 230 metres long from a single rocket launch. No other vehicle combines hydraulic arm, full-width mine plough, Fascine carrier, and demolition excavator in one chassis at this level of survivability. The Trojan fleet has remained small. 33 vehicles, all held by 22 Engineer Regiment and 26 Engineer Regiment at Swinton Barracks, Perham Down, in Tidworth Garrison. No exports, no foreign customers, no public museum examples, though photographs of Trojans in Germany sit in the National Army Museum archives. On December 18, 2025, the Ministry of Defence signed a new contract with Rheinmetall BAE Systems Land, valued at £64.5 million. The programme is called the Titan Trojan Midlife Update. It will refresh electronic architecture, address obsolescence in power and hydraulics, and sustain the vehicles until their current out-of-service date of 2040. The Titan bridge layer, oddly, is scheduled to leave service 8 years earlier. The Ministry of Defence has not publicly explained why, but the Trojan will remain. Another 14 years of British sappers driving the vehicle that the Chieftain, the Centurion and the Churchill could never quite become. February 15th, 2010, a dry riverbed north of Patrol Base Wahid, Nadi Ali district. It had no main gun. It had no modern active protection system. It was the smallest combat engineer fleet of any major Western army. Only 33 were ever built, not one was exported, and its hull was a main battle tank design with an excavator bolted on top. And yet it worked. It worked in the wadis of Helmand. It worked on the plough lanes outside Shawal. It worked on the training ranges of Alberta. It worked on NATO's eastern border in Estonia. It worked because the men who designed it understood what every British armoured engineer had understood since Dieppe. Protect the sapper, carry every tool, fight forward with the tanks. 80 years after the Churchill armoured vehicle Royal Engineers hit Gold Beach, its direct descendant is still opening roads that nothing else can touch. That is not luck. That is British engineering doing what it has always done best. Working when it mattered.